Have you ever wrestled with the question, what is my purpose in life? Welcome to another episode of Providence Threads. My name is Toby. I'm a host here and a pastor at Providence Church. Today, we have the gift of Rob Olinzok joining us to help us answer that question. And Rob, to set kind of the conversation up, you and I first met in the wonderful, delightful time right out these doors at a picnic table during the midst of COVID because we couldn't meet indoors. And we were talking about the wonderful opportunity to baptize your youngest. After that conversation, it quickly switched to a whole different conversation where you were, hey, let's talk about some things. And to set that up, Rob, at that time, you were working for a local corporation.
Right.
You were climbing the corporate ladder. You were successful. You were doing well. You were pursuing an MBA, but something in your gut just wasn't settled. And we started having conversations. Bring us up to speed. What was going on then?
Sure. That was the expectation, right? From a young age, going through high school, finding the right college, establishing myself coming out of college into a career, pursuing that career, um, while also getting married, having some kids. Very quickly, my passions and my desires were focused on career aspiration,
Yeah.
the MBA. And while I think it's nice to be successful, I was wrestling with what it means to be successful. And by following much of what the world would say is defined as success,
Yeah.
um, I soon started feeling the tugging in this struggle with the Lord on where I was prioritizing my time. Um, and if I was really living for Him in what it was that I was pursuing.
So that's all happening as you're kind of taking off, right? And life's looking good according to the world, but something inside is still wrestling with you.
Right.
We started having that conversation, and where did you take that conversation? We started meeting with some guys and talk a little bit about how that was helpful just to kind of process of what was going on.
Sure. So you had invited me into this small group of men. I think at the time it was, men in their 30s.
Yeah.
And that was a great opportunity to be able to just learn what others in the community, in the church are working through, are potentially struggling with. But more for myself, it was a place to be able to experience God, what He was speaking to me, and to be able to share what I was going through as well with them and learn that I'm not the only one going through many of these same struggles and asking many of these same questions. Because it's difficult to have a safe space
Yeah.
to be able to talk about these types of topics, because in today's society, in this worldly, in the West, especially
Yeah.
living in America, this pursuit of material things,
More and more and more
more
and
and more
more.
and more was what I thought the right answer was, because so prevalent around me. And that was how success was defined. So I really started to question whether that was the right pursuit. And the men in this group were able to help reaffirm that what it was I was hearing, that struggle, that pull, that tug um, from the Lord, really helped me begin to ask deeper questions
Hmm.
and get beyond just the surface level discussions.
So a key phrase during that time that started coming alive to you, and you just started talking more and more, was the kingdom of God. And it's about His kingdom rather than a worldly kingdom. Talk about how that phrase started to capture your heart and your mind during that time.
Yeah, when I think about a king, what does the Lord's kingdom look like?
Yeah.
And there's going to be people from all over this world, with all different sorts of um, experiences, but they're all children of God.
Hmm.
And I feel the Lord was home, really driving home this need for to serve the kingdom, to shepherd the kingdom, or
Yeah.
I should say first correct myself so that I can serve his kingdom.
Correct yourself. What does that mean? What some internal stuff had to happen up here, a paradigm shift.
Yeah, a paradigm shift.
Explain that a little bit. What shifted?
So what I was going through a number of struggles as he's pulling me through this, what would turn out to be a multi-year process. And I'm still obviously
Still
going
on
through
it. Yeah.
But pride is something that I had struggled with during that time period. And the Lord, as he's calling me into this deeper relationship, into these new opportunities to serve within the community and within Providence, I struggled letting go of those worldly pursuits. And I thought I could do both. And so prioritization became top of mind, and I struggled with, not allowing my family to have me wholly there and present in both my wife's life and my kids' life. And I knew that I had to make a shift in how I was prioritizing my time, that I couldn't invest all of my time in those worldly pursuits.
So you made what I so appreciated about your journey is that you started hearing very clearly from God. You're in this group of guys and you're pressing these, like, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling. But it wasn't just kind of trying to make a paradigm shift here in doing pursuit. Like, you really took some radical action. You quit your job.
Yes.
Not everyone gets to that level, right? So help us understand, like, how did you come to that point? Like, you quit that was a great opportunity for you to keep on growing. You said, I need something different. How did you get to that point?
I needed some time to reassess my priorities in life. Like you said, I had a role that was, by all measures, a great opportunity, something that to walk away from, it'd be crazy.
The world would not understand. No.
When I had put in my notice, I had people asking me, well, what are you going to do? And, walking away from this is not the right career decision for you. Because there were people that invested their time to me as well.
Yeah.
But I knew that investing my time back into my family, into both Amber and my children, is where the Lord was really calling me. So I took a sabbatical, took some time off of work to be able to get my head straight. But then during that pursuit, it felt like there was a new opportunity that came up several months down the road.
Well, there was that season where you took some time off and you were growing, and you got to a point like, I learned all my lessons. Now I'm ready.
I know.
Right.
Yes.
And you tried to do the dual lane again.
I did.
Right. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny how the Lord works, because it felt like a test.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had course corrected, that family life was improving, that we had our priorities straight. But a new opportunity came up. Got a phone call one day and said, hey, can you help me out in this new role? I said, that would be great. Great pay, great benefits, great worldly things.
Yep.
There were some requirements of the role to travel, to see some new areas that I had not been before, potentially even move longer term. All of this.
Grateful that didn't happen.
Grateful that didn't happen. But, it was a conversation that Amber and I talked about over many months. But I was confronted with more of what I was pursuing previously.
Yeah.
And I thought, perhaps the Lord is putting this in my life because I made these great course corrections previously.
Yeah.
And it ramped up the pride even more in my life and made me feel like, okay, I'm making the right decisions. And so the Lord is therefore rewarding me in some way. Hindsight's 20/20. And when I look back on it, it was more of a a test
Yeah.
on how I use how I'm a steward, basically,
Yep.
in his blessings. And it's easy to fall back into those areas of pride and those areas of I'm chasing after something. And I very quickly, in a matter of months, saw a shift back to where I was before, just a year and a half ago before that.
I remember a phone call. I was like, Toby, can we sit down? I thought I learned some lessons, but I'm realizing, maybe I didn't learn them as deep as I needed to.
Yes.
And that brought another shift in your life. So talk to us about that.
It was a very difficult conversation to have with people who vouched for me, that brought me into this new organization that I was in, but I knew that I had made a terrible mistake. And I felt like I needed to remove myself from the previous decision to take that role,
Yeah.
because I was chasing those same things. And to be honest, I had regressed even further back than where I was previously. I mean, my wife, Amber, she would tell you that
Thank the Lord for good wives. Yeah.
Yes, good lies. She saw me less when I was working remote at home than when saw me less when I was working at home than when I was working away locally here. And I was traveling 45 minutes each way previously, spending 10, 11 hours a day at work, if not more, during busy periods. And now in this new role, I'm remote and I'm sitting downstairs in the basement and she's sitting
To all hours of the night.
to all hours of the night. So those were some tough conversations that we had. But I knew I was in the wrong with that, and I was pursuing it in the wrong way. So I took a step away from that as well, and really had to think about this drive to achieve titles and status and material things. It was just going to continue to eat away from what I felt like was where I should be truly investing my time, which is in my wife, in my kids, in my church, in my community. And that's what shifted my mindset to kind of where I'm at now. And it's been baby steps since then.
Well, I wouldn't say baby steps. I want to commend you. I mean, what I've loved about your journey is you haven't done it alone.
Right.
Right? You had these wrestlings and you spoke about it. You gathered a group of guys around you and allowed them to speak into it. You've been able to say, boy, I learned my lesson. I mean, that's humility, but I mean, that's interesting. You say, boy, I wrestled with pride, but there's also this beautiful picture of deep, deep humility and trust. We're preaching these next couple of weeks all on stewardship. And the key thing that when we started doing that and we're like, hey, let's do a podcast, I'm like, I hope Rob will sit down with me because this story is so powerful, because stewardship is not about putting some money in a collection plate on a Sunday. Stewardship is God designed me for a purpose.
Exactly.
And am I stewarding what God has called me to and given to me? And your journey, which I've so appreciated, is that the wrestling with, oh, I want to chase after the world. No, that's not going to give me lasting happiness. Here's my beautiful wife. Here's my beautiful children. Of what that needs to be my priority. It's not an easy shift, though.
Right.
And you're still wrestling through it. What I appreciate about it is since you've made that shift, you're still working and you have a beautiful job, but it's not this thing that becomes the key priority.
Right.
And what I've seen is now you're a middle school youth leader.
Yes.
Pouring into kids. Amber's leading a young moms group and pouring into young moms and children. You're serving in various different ways, part of the men's group still, and making that happen. I just want to commend you on this journey of stewarding your life well. It's not done.
It's not.
There's more to go.
Yes.
There's more to wrestle through. But I wonder, maybe there's some guys in their 20s, some guys in their 30s, maybe some guys in their 60s who are still just trying to one more, something bigger. What would you say to them, and how would you invite them to start maybe asking some different questions?
Spending time with community was instrumental for me in changing my mindset. Not only because I was able to hear from other men in that same struggle, but also just getting into the word more.
Mm-hmm.
My time allocation was way off, and my time to spend praying and in the word on my own was not happening. And I didn't have any accountability at that time. So as I think forward, and what I've done recently is we invest in that group of men. We invest in our time in Scripture. We invest in our community, in our church here. That's what's really led me to where I'm at right now. Without people around me holding me accountable and continuing to keep me in the Word, I think I'd be in a much different place right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Toby, there's a word here that comes to mind. I want to go back to what we were talking about regarding having that kingdom mindset.
Yeah.
And the last 4 years have been a journey.
Mm-hmm.
By switching from that worldly view, that worldly pursuit, into having this kingdom mindset, spending time in our church community, serving in middle school, I've just never felt any greater joy than being able to have the opportunity with those middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Just recently at winter camp this last weekend, the joy that comes from seeing 6th, 7th, and 8th grade boys and girls on their knees praising the Lord, seeing them come into the Lord's presence and just raise their hands and give their life to Christ is
There's nothing better.
Transformational for them and for myself seeing this.
Yeah.
And all the joys and the pursuits that I thought I was chasing after before were nothing. They just pale in comparison to this. And so I get a glimpse of what heaven will look like someday. It just makes me on fire for the Lord and for the short time that we have here. I'm 37. Our days are, only the Lord knows the days that we have. But I feel like my faith has just been restored over the last 4 years. And I see where the Lord can transform people's attitudes and how he can reallocate their time to build his kingdom, to serve in his kingdom. And I'd encourage those of you that recently this weekend, John 10, the Good Shepherd.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing time that we spent in the Word.
And I've come to give you life and life to the full.
And I just want to encourage people to to follow Christ, to think about how they can shepherd his children that are here on this earth, but only for a short period of time.
And it's interesting, but I mean, you've done the journey and you're still on that journey. But a paradigm shift has to happen. And when you start to find, here's my purpose, here's how I'm aligned with Christ, you can truly start to say, nothing satisfies except for Jesus.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
you experienced a piece of that this weekend with no sleep, with the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that are noisy in energy and smell different. And
Yes.
and here that's your testimony of like no greater joy. What a gift. So I'm so glad that you've done that journey. Wise words. Rob, I appreciate you as a person. I appreciate your journey. And I just want to invite the Providence family and wherever this gets broadcast out to, a reminder that we've been called to steward our lives. Again, stewardship isn't just here's a check or here's some dollar bills. Stewardship is, do I really know my purpose in life? Am I pursuing God with everything that I am? And I can't do that by myself. We need community. And so thank you for modeling that. It's not an easy journey. It's not over, but the Lord bless you in your journey. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Toby.